Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Kerry Burr, the Human GPS, Empowerment and Transformational Coach, and this is Warrior TV, the voice of the mental health warriors. And we will be back in just a few moments. Hello and welcome. We are joined today by Melissa Christie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Melissa.
Hi, Kerry. Nice to see you.
You too. And we also have Caroline, our Rainbow Warrior in Ireland. Good.
Hi, everyone.
To you, and good evening to Lisa Costa, also from Australia. And Adam, I believe, will be joining us shortly once he's got his Wi-Fi connection sorted out. How are we all today?
Fantastic.
Very well.
Really well, thank you.
Excellent. Actually, I wonder if Adam's got a bit scared and disappeared because of the topics that we're going to be chatting about today. The delights of PMS and menopause and the effects that it has on our mental health. It's quite a vast area, actually, isn't it? There's so many different symptoms that we can each experience and probably have. Let's start. Can we start with you, Melissa? What's your experience? You don't have to go into any great detail if you don't want to, obviously, but be interesting to hear.
Yeah. In regards to PMS, I mean, it wasn't overly traumatic for me. I mean, obviously there was a lot of varying levels of pain, and that used to mess me around, so to speak. You know, feeling really tired, lethargic, and then just cranky. I guess my mood swings were probably the most prominent part of that. And as the years have gone on, I mean, I've, learned to address those a lot more. And recently, I've gone the other scale now, so I've had a full hysterectomy, or not a full a partial hysterectomy. So that has then cleared up a whole lot of things. And in regards to menopause, I feel pretty good. I mean, I don't get any of the symptoms, so to speak. So I manage things, learning to manage things quite well. And energy is very good, vitality is good, and quite clear. My thinking is quite clear. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
What else is? Yeah. Like you say, it's a very broad topic, so.
It is, yeah. I mean, some women kind of breeze through it, don't they? And others can suffer terribly, absolutely terribly. Come to you next, Caroline. What are your experiences with it?
Well, with PMS, I think if you're kind of a sensitive person, you probably are going to deal with it a little bit more. I suppose it's going to be more difficult. So it depends on, like, every individual is unique and the experience of it is unique. I suppose as you speak to any woman, you'll hear that. I know from teenagers up, some of my friends would have suffered really bad with migraines and find them really difficult. Personally, I think definitely I would experience it as like a cloud that comes over me, and I definitely feel like if I had a chance, I would go to a shack for about 3 days and not speak to anybody, because I just really feel like I get hypersensitive, even to touch, to people talking to me, everything becomes louder and more noisy and more kind of, it's easier to get overwhelmed, we'll say, So definitely I think that kind of self-care. But sometimes the worst thing about PMS for me is that I feel I'm often in it and I don't realize I'm in it. It might take me a couple of days to realize what's happening to me. It's just that maybe I don't keep a check enough, but it's like it just starts to overcome. And you wonder why your mood has changed, and then you kind of go, oh yeah, right, yeah, I'm a bit irrational, and I'm 47 now, so I'm kind of getting closer to the age of kind of coming towards menopause. I thought I actually was kind of perimenopausal, but I've just got my bloods done and stuff, I'm fine. But I do find at this age, I'm more tired around that time, and it definitely takes more from me, and I'm definitely more, I'd say, kind of drained, so I don't know when it's going to kick in, and I know that happens at different ages. One of my grandmothers, she went through a menopause when she was my age, so even earlier, so I was kind of worried about that, and I got it checked out, and no, I'm fine. So yeah, it's good to keep a check on yourself, I think, definitely.
Definitely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Welcome back, Adam.
Hello.
Hi, Adam.
Yeah.
Bless you.
You're a brave man.
Very brave. Lisa, how about you? What are your experiences with it?
I remember PMS being pretty prominent for me, and having to, take pain relief and the mood swings and the erratic behaviour and the outbursts of behaviour. I still remember those, and I'm at that stage now where I'm starting to go the other way as well. I'm 49 and I haven't had bloods done. And it's interesting, Caroline, that you say you've had bloods done and you're fine, because I actually believe, this is my personal belief, that your body will start to show you signs of a change in your hormones before bloods. And there'll be little things that happen. I'm already having hot flushes, cycle is still the same, but there's already things happening with me that are indicating, changes happening with my hormones. So, yeah, and I think, I don't know, the PMS at this stage of life is not like it used to be. And since having the kids, I don't get the pain that I used to have either, so that's a real bonus. There's other things that aren't a bonus, and I won't go into depth because Adam might leave. But,
Just get it out.
Don't say things like that, Adam.
But I think, it's one of those things that we shouldn't hide behind, and there's no shame in, what our body does every month, and it's actually quite miraculous what a woman's body can do. So I just think you need to own it and go, you know what, now's not the time to engage with me, because, it's this, and come back in 3 days. It's usually 3 days, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
2 days before the first day of, and after that you're okay, you're sweet. You're back to being pleasant.
I'm back.
Yeah, it's I know. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was told that because I to begin with, I suffered terribly with cramps, really badly. I was going to the doctor sort of every other month, and he was trying me on all sorts of different things. Water tablets was one thing, and all that resulted in was me weeing rather a lot, more than normal. And eventually, he put me on to the birth control pill, which wasn't something that I necessarily wanted to take, but it kind of sorted literally everything out. So for many years, I didn't really kind of experience PMS, which was wonderful. Not just for me, but for everybody else around me. But then, of course, I reach a certain age, and then I'm considered, too old to be taking it, and I've got to stop taking it. And then, of course, everything started to go a bit haywire, and PMS came back in. But I wonder if it's, as you said, Lisa, as we get older, we deal with it differently. I wonder if it's because of experiences that we've just got used to it. We know, we kind of get an idea as to how to control it. Our threshold for pain changes. So for some people it gets worse, obviously, but for some of us it gets better. We're able to tolerate that pain a lot more than we were say 10, 15, 20 years previously. But it's also interesting what you were saying, Caroline, about getting your bloods checked, and there's a from my own personal experiences, there's an opinion or a belief within the medical profession that, if you're under the age of 50, you're too young to be going through menopause or even be perimenopausal. Now, I started experiencing problems at around about the age of 44, 45. And I went to the doctors and they took bloods and they came back and said, no, your hormone levels are normal. So I said, well, why am I having these problems then? So then, of course, I went for ultrasound scans and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. But they kept telling me each time, you're too young to be going through the menopause. And I said, my mum was 44 when she went through the menopause. So how am I too young? I've got a couple of friends who actually went through it in their 30s. So I'm guessing that's kind of perhaps something that's not particularly common. There aren't a huge amount of women that go through these things earlier in life.
I'm going through one.
Are you?
Just now.
Yeah. Bless it. You having hot flushes?
Hot flushes, yeah.
And sweat, yeah.
Having a menopause.
Yeah.
Oh, bless you.
No, they've actually got a name for it. Let me just get it a minute. It's called andropause.
Oh,
Adam pause.
Not andro.
yes.
Andro.
Ah,
I was going to say, there is such a thing as the male menopause, isn't there?
Yeah.
so
But,
there should be. So there should be.
But, you're right. We know it. We know in our own bodies what's going on, don't we? And I knew back then that I was somewhat perimenopausal. And then I think it was about 4 years ago. And I apologise if to anybody that's listening, if you don't like me saying this, but my period stopped, and I've not had one since, and I celebrated.
I pray for that day.
But like you said, Lisa, about the being told that the pain itself gets easier. If anything, it'll go away once you've had children. Well, of course, I never had children. Personal choice.
That was a wise choice too, I have to say.
Genius, I'd call it.
No, I'm actually joking. I have 3 awesome children.
I do have kids, but they each have 4 legs and a waggy tail.
Yeah, the best kind. They're the best kind.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I just share a situation with my eldest daughter? She's now 18, but when her cycle started, everything seemed normal. And then over the years, she started to suffer horrendous pain, and to the point where she'd be at school and she would message me and say, Mum, I need to come home. And I'd have a window period of about 10 minutes from when she first started typing her message to me to get to the school and pick her up, because she would lose mobility, pass out, vomit, and this just got progressively worse. Anyway, everyone just kept saying, put her on the pill, and I said, I don't really want to do that. I really want to have some investigation done in case there's something else going on. The oral contraceptive pill is fantastic for preventing a pregnancy if it's taken timely. But there are side effects from all medication, and I didn't want to just do that at the age of 16 or 17 just to fix the problem. I wanted to see what the problem was and if it could be fixed any other way. So after a whole, barrage of investigation, it was discovered that she has an overproduction of oxytocin. And for those of us that have had babies know that oxytocin is the hormone that a woman's body produces when they're having a baby. So effectively every month she gave birth. Now her text messages would start to make sense, or in the beginning they would make sense, and as the messages went on it was just nonsensical stuff, like the words weren't right. but I would get to school sometimes and she'd be out writhing around the floor in pain, barely conscious, in a really horrendous state. But understanding now that that was her situation, that's what was happening to her body, and having had 3 kids, I was like, oh my God, you're amazing, but and that is actually more common than we think too. So if the pain is extreme, don't ignore it. If you find yourself in those situations, please have it investigated, because it's not fun. And the school were awesome. They would ring me and go, oh, Lisa, you need to come and get her. And they just started making provisions for her in that situation. And they knew that if she hit the deck or she asked to speak to me or whatever, they would do that, really quickly to try and save that whole scenario unfolding at school. But we had her in hospital so many times, but that was the outcome.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and of course, she's just turned 18, and her cycle is managed far, far, far more painlessly on the pill. So that was our only option for her. And I'm glad now that we've done it. I'm glad that we got to the bottom of what it was, and, that was an option for her. Yeah, so Kerry's just said Facebook was frozen.
It was frozen.
Nothing new there.
Yeah, it can be extremely severe, can't it? I had a friend who I used to live with in college, and she had severe migraines. And like that, she'd had, I'd say, about a window of an hour or so she had these special prescribed tablets for migraine. And she'd lose her sight. She would just start to vomit, and, she had to go straight to bed, blackened room, and just stay there until it lifted, So, it can be extremely serious for people, can't it?
And debilitating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, totally.
A week out of your life every month to go through. My mum was the same, Caroline. She had really extreme migraines to the point where she would lose vision and throw up, and sort of similar to Maggie, but in the extreme, but for different reasons. But it can be really debilitating, and I think if we can understand just how much suffering happens in that week, we can lend a little more kindness to people when we understand exactly how much they suffer. I think that's really important. Because sometimes you feel like you're losing the plot at that time of the month too, but it's out of your control.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get irrational, irrational behavior.
You do. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it kind of takes over a little bit. I always find that, because usually I'm very kind of level-headed, and it's just, you start to see yourself kind of very more edgy and irrational. And I actually kind of try to witness myself, a witness to my own behavior.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always trying to do that anyway, but that kind of like witnessing awareness of, and actually I find it even more interesting sometimes when I'm in my cycle, because I can really see like the personality traits of this kind of, if you're talking about mindfulness, and you can see it, you can witness your own thoughts, and you can kind of see how the patterns are arising more and more. So it's actually a time where you can get a great insight into yourself, because I think your patterns get heightened. And you can kind of say, oh, wow, I can see this pattern and I can see that pattern. And, I suppose with food and how you react, I suppose, in a stressful situation is more heightened. So you can kind of become more aware. So it can be like a teaching tool as well,
And especially
sorry, Lisa.
Sorry, Kerry, I think I cut you off.
No, go on, carry on.
I think when you're aware of, and if you're watching your cycle closely, you can start to nurture yourself a little better. And hydration is massive. I often will say to people when they come to me for oils, for PMS and stuff like that, the first thing I say in most cases is, how's your hydration? Because, we lose a lot of hydration even when we sleep. So replenishing that during the day is really important, but it helps massively in the first few days of your cycle too, if you can stay really well hydrated. And water, I'm not talking coffee or tea, or hit the water and really look after yourself.
Yeah.
They do say to avoid caffeine, don't they? During that time, but they also say that certain complex carbohydrates are supposed to be good for eating during that time, but also to change your eating times as well. I don't know about you guys, but I used to find that eating a little but often, so 4, 5, maybe 6 really small meals each day was better for me than having breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you usually crave junk food and all the rubbish under the
All the
sun.
sugars and all the carbs and
It's actually the worst thing you
Yes.
can do for your body.
Yeah.
Is to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's
totally.
interesting.
yeah. I mean, Kerry's just said that she said, I know how bad migraines are. I need to be in a dark room to deal with it. Sometimes I feel like I'm spinning and end up being sick as well.
That's when I lose the plot.
Bless you. My mum
Well,
used
that's not hard. Oh, sorry.
No, go on, carry on, Melissa. Go on.
I was just going to say, Adam, that sometimes is difficult for you too, being the partner, in watching your partner move through such pain and such distress, and then not kind of knowing or being aware of how to support and how to help.
That's when Kerry becomes a pain.
Yeah.
So tell us, give us your experiences, Adam, from a male perspective. No, seriously though, because you know, I mean, we've all, I guess, got our own experiences from, you know, being on the receiving end of responses from various men, be it husbands, boyfriends, brothers, male relatives, work colleagues, whatever. But what is it like for a guy living with their girlfriend, wife, who's experiencing such weird things each month?
Well, that's why it's average from the age of 30, men start to lose their hair because of the stress. And I think the easy way out is when men turn to alcohol as a soother.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sure that goes down really well with Kerry.
I don't care. I have to do it.
But it's I'm going to sort of move on to the mental health aspect of it and the effects that it can have on our mental health and potentially those around us as well, because I remember many years ago, I worked voluntarily for a few weeks with the National Schizophrenia Fellowship in the Southeast in the office. I was office based. And I used to have lots of conversations with the regional manager. But there was another lady that I worked with at the same time. And she said to me that her PMS was quite awful. To the point where her actions or what she believed to be happening, she didn't know whether it was real or whether she was dreaming. And she said she recalled one day she was vacuuming in an upstairs bedroom and the window was open. It was like a sash window. And she just suddenly decided to go and sit on the windowsill and was looking out and found herself wondering, you know, what it would be like to actually jump out of the window.
Wow.
But there was nothing there to actually say, you know, don't do it. She was getting ready to do it, and it was only the fact that her husband walked in and caught her doing it that she actually didn't jump out of that window. Now, I mean, you know, presumably she wouldn't have died as a result of falling out of the window, but she would certainly have injured herself significantly. And she said that in conversations that she'd had with her doctor, sometimes with PMS, it is a very, very fine line between purely PMS and sort of borderlining schizophrenic behaviour almost, which was really bizarre.
Wow.
But yeah, coming back to you, Adam, you know, looking at it from a serious perspective, how is it for you, from a guy's point of view, how is it for you when you're looking after Kerry?
Stressful. Insomnia starts kicking in, depression, anxiety. Apparently, to Kerry, I get crankier than usual. So even though I'm not cranky some days, but anyway. No, but on the serious note, yeah, it does affect our mindset massively.
Okay. So I take you know the warning signs now, do you? Do you know when? Yeah. Okay. So is there anything that you do personally to sort of help prepare for that?
Well, when she starts like feeling those pains, I try and sit with her, try and talk to her, and like she put in the comments, I buy her extra chocolate because clearly that soothes her. So I go and do that, and I just support her more than usual. Like I try and back the kids away from her, not like I'm being selfish or being a little bit of an asshole or something like that, but I try and give Kerry like a bit of her time while I do what I need to do.
Cool.
I guess it's a bit like having a baby some months where you know
Oh,
you're
yes.
irrational and nothing or nobody can help you. And in 3 days, it's going to all be gone. You're going to think to yourself that you are absolutely irrational, but it's past. So everyone in the house is safe after the 3 days. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kerry gets a little bit argumentative when it's her time, and I just said, Kerry, shut up. There's a mirror there. Go and argue with that, love. And I just walk away.
Well, my husband's a bit more compassionate. He says anything that
Yeah.
bleeds for a week and survives is pretty miraculous. So he takes his hat
is.
off to me.
He's
He's
right.
like, that's incredible. Yeah, so...
It's amazing, isn't it, how I would say probably the majority of the population see it as us women having mood swings every month. And essentially that's what we are having. But I think there aren't many people out there that really fully understand how that drop or the erratic rise and drop of serotonin actually does affect us.
Yeah.
It's not just about having cramps and feeling crappy for a few days and perhaps being in a bad mood or a bit more emotional than we are normally, a bit snappy or anything like that. And then this is why I'm really glad that you've come on this morning, Adam, because it's good to hear from a male perspective. But I think it's also important for all the women out there who will go through a degree of PMS and a degree of symptoms related to the menopause, for men and other women out there to understand that it's not just a simple case of mood swings, or it's not just a simple case of a change in our hormones. There are all kinds of different effects, different symptoms that affect us. Some, as I said before, some will breeze through it, others will have the most awful time. So, which brings me on to the area of what we can do to help ourselves, what supplements, vitamins, foods, etc., exercise or whatever, what can we do to help ourselves? Melissa, what did you do? What have you been doing, and how has it worked for you?
I used to find just really taking time out for myself and just really nurturing, just being quiet and just general self-care, really. I would just use a lot of hot packs, maybe a couple of Panadol, and then just chill, just take it easy. With my mood swings and things like that, I would tend to... It's interesting. I always find it interesting because you know, sometimes when you go through things, you don't actually, or for me, don't actually associate your mental side of it. It's just the way that you're moving through it, and you just kind of push through it. You just kind of move through it, and you don't associate, you don't realize the full implications of what is, you know, the mental, physical, and emotional context together, what it's doing to your body and how you're presenting. So, yeah. So for me, I would literally erupt verbally sometimes, and then just chill and just keep quiet. If I kept quiet, I was okay. You know, people left me alone. So I would do that kind of thing. Maybe, yeah, I would maybe, it's mainly just self-care and just being quiet, gentle, and allowing myself, giving myself that permission just to be gentle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? Really important. How about you, Caroline?
Yes, I think I'm just thinking here about how does it affect me more? You know, when do I have a worse month than others? And I'm just thinking, I think when I'm looking after myself well, consistently, I probably have a much better month than I would have if I let myself be overtaken and get too busy. And I'm actually not, you know, I haven't been maybe eating things for the month coming up to it, or I haven't been kind of giving myself that time that I should have been. And when it hits, it probably hits harder, you know. So I'm just thinking if we had more of a kind of an even, constant level of care, that might help as well. And I think that does help with me. And the more actually, I suppose the books that I've written are kind of based around, you know, Celtic spirituality and stuff. And a lot of our tradition, we have connected, like women connected to the cycles of life and the cycles of the moon and the cycles of, and it really, I think I'm getting more interested in that. I'm getting more interested in, you know, I suppose as humans, we're natural beings and we're part of nature. And I think a lot of times, like, women suffer the consequences of that disconnection. So I think it's like the essential oils I like to use as well, and I try to stay away from kind of anything that's not natural. So Lisa, I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say about what you would recommend. But I know for myself, years ago, I started using kind of tiger balm and things like that without not really understanding anything about essential oils. But I kind of had headaches at the time. Each time my period would come on, and I'd use it on my temples, and it was kind of an intuitive thing I had. I didn't know any actually knowledge or understanding about it. But then as the years went on, and about when I launched the Rainbow Warrior book, it was actually about connection, really, connection to yourself, connection to your environment, and connection to other people. They were kind of the principles within it. So I started then interviewing companies that were producing products that were natural on the skin and in the body and stuff. And I interviewed a company that produced essential oils called Atlantic Aromatics. And through that interview, I started to use the essential oils, and I thought they were fantastic. You know, for, I suppose, the practice of mindfulness through the essential oils. So helping them bring you into the present moment, and it's really a time of kind of like that. I think everybody's said really, it's a time to kind of come back to yourself and center yourself, and to know that the natural process, and it's not to be seen in a negative way, you know, that is actually part of nature, you know. And I actually just came across this book there a few weeks ago, and it's called The Women's Quest, and I'm just starting to read about it. And it's about that. It's about kind of unfolding women's past of power, wisdom, through the understanding of, you know, our connection to nature and our connection to this, you know, our cycles, our natural cycles. So I'm kind of investigating, and I'm discovering that myself at the moment, and I'm kind of curious about that. So Lisa, I don't know if you have anything that you would recommend when it comes to essential oils.
Oh, for sure. I think the first thing to acknowledge is that for women, we always seem to be in a stage of transition, like from teenage years when our cycle starts, we're transitioning to the change in hormones there. Then we have children, so there's a new transition there. And then we go through the children thing, and the body's a little bit different. It's altered after having had children. And then we're going through another transition when we hit menopause. So we're actually going through changes that we don't even understand. And our hormones drive everything in our body. And we don't have to know it all, but we can feel it. We don't have to understand the whole chemistry behind it all, but we know it's happening in our body. And definitely since using essential oils, I have had some fabulous results and responses, and particularly in the beginning when my daughter started and her cycle wasn't as bad, I could support her beautifully with essential oils. Clary Sage is amazing. Straight up, it's amazing. And the company I work for, doTERRA, have a blend called Clary Calm. And it has a handful of oils in it that synergistically work together to support hormones that behave and act like hormones in our system, so they can support us beautifully at that time of the month. And you can use it all the way through the month if you feel you need it, or you can use it as a transition into those days leading up to your cycle and the first few days when you start. But they are absolute powerhouses in supporting us, and you can also use them to support your emotions as well. So use them to support your hormones, but also use them for the tidal wave of change of emotions as well, which can be really powerful and just can keep you a bit more even. They're plant, our body, if you're using pure essential oils, our body understands them. And like I said, if you listened to last night's call, our body doesn't have to work hard to break down pure essential oils because they are plant. It's like salad for your body. That's how I like to think about it. Whereas chemicals, although they work fabulously, they're hard work. They're a toxic load for our system, and our internal workings have to work very hard to understand them, break them down, and then put them to work. And there often are side effects, and they cannot be, favourable either long term. So I think you just need to find what works with you. And if you're going to use essential oils, you need to be a little bit patient. It's not, you don't want to just use them once and go, well, they didn't work. Because unlike medication, for me, I've used them every 20 minutes if I've needed to, or every half an hour or every hour, where with some medications you take it once a day or you take it every 4 hours, and you don't apply a medicine type methodology when you use essential oils. You can use them as frequently as you want. Your body will metabolize them really easily, and excrete them just as easily, and you can reapply or ingest them, or however you like to take them, providing that you can ingest the oils. So you need to know what oils you're using and if they're safe to do that, because that's paramount, and not all essential oils are the same. They're not created equally. And that's really important to get across too, because while I'm here talking to you about essential oils and I might take them internally, if you're using something that's, broken down with synthetics or topped up with synthetics or fillers, they can be potentially harmful. So they're not the kind of brands I'm talking about. So really know your product. And if you've got questions, if anyone's watching and they have questions, please reach out. I'd love to support them.
And Lisa, there was something I was reading last night in this as well. They were talking about your body and the condition of your body before maybe you take the oils in. So if you've a lot of toxins in your body already, or if you're not eating and you have a proper diet, treatments like essential oils mightn't have as much of an effect on you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, you can have a toxic load in your system that's built up over years. So essential oils, have to work through that as well once they're in your system. So if you've got a build-up of, years of taking medicine that you probably needed, or you may have needed, I'm not boo-hooing medicine at all. I'm not saying stop that and go do essential oils. No, definitely not. But that can take, you've got to detox the system and give them a good chance at working. Yeah.
It's about getting rid of those free radicals, isn't it?
They're all around us.
They are all the time, at home, all around us, all inside of us. And it is about getting that balance. And, for the most part, we can do that with what we eat.
Yeah.
But it's choosing the food wisely as well, isn't it? It's sort of trying to get hold of fresh produce that hasn't been absolutely smothered in pesticides and stuff like that. So, or even, you know, the meat eaters amongst us, it's finding a meat producer, if you like, that feeds the animals on clean food, essentially, rather than, again, you know, grains that have potentially, again, been smothered with pesticides. It's there's a lot of advice going around about different vitamins and other supplements, and magnesium is supposed to be a good one for menopause. Another one is turmeric. But again, it's very much like with the essential oils. It's getting a hold of and knowing that you're buying a pure brand, a pure product, and not just, you know, something that you can pick up in the local supermarket for half the price than, and you know, another product that you could pick up in a health food shop, for example. I mean, I personally have gone the natural supplements route, and I've found a natural supplement that is all natural, and it works at a cellular level, so it's getting rid of those free radicals. When I started going through menopause proper, as I say, my periods just stopped, which was a bit of a bonus. But then I would experience night sweats, even in the middle of winter. I had terrible brain fog, aching muscles, you know, for no reason. And since taking these supplements, all of that has disappeared. And all of a sudden I have energy. I sleep a lot better, because disturbed sleep is a big issue for a lot of women, isn't it?
Especially men.
Well, I was going to say, and probably for men as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It's highly important, I believe, to make sure that first of all we're eating well and healthily, and you know, eating the right things, but you know, using the right products as well, using the right essential oils, having the right supplements, having exercise, regular exercise. It doesn't have to be anything really strenuous, but you know, as long as we're getting out there and getting the air and we're moving. And like you said, Melissa, even more importantly, I think, is just taking time out for ourselves, having that space to just contemplate our thoughts and our feelings, and if we want to make sense of it, or if we don't want to, just let it ride with it and until it subsides.
Yeah, totally.
Movement is massive, because you get such a release of endorphins. It's almost lost the word then. It can be so fruitful for our mind and our body, so we can you know, nurture both of those things in the one go. It's really, really important, even when you don't feel like it, even when you've got muscle soreness or joint soreness, which we start to get, as you said, Kerry, we go through that when we have a change in hormones. That's all part of the deal. You know, and food is your first medicine always. So if you want your body to perform optimally, you've really got to feed it optimally. And we can't wonder why things are going to be more uncomfortable or more painful, or you know, why we're going to suffer more if we're really not nourishing and nurturing our body in the best possible way we can. And it might mean that we have to go and do a bit of research about that, and really educate ourselves for what we need as our hormones start to change. I think that's really important too.
Yeah.
There's so much knowledge out there now.
Yeah.
And
I think too.
Sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, on the back of that, Lisa, it's one of the beauties of moving through and getting older is that you become more aware of your body and more aware of how your body feels and how it reacts to certain things, and how because I know for myself, I know when I start doing juices and do my juices, how different I feel than to when I start eating heavier, some of the more heavier foods, how much more energy I have, how much more vitality I have. So it's more about listening, like you're saying, listening to your body. And I think as we get older, we honour that a lot more than to what we do when we're young. Well, I know I do. Have honoured it more as I've gotten older as to when I did when I was younger.
I think there's a lot more awareness about that too now, Melissa. I think that's a
Yeah,
really
I think you're
valid
right.
point to, our systems are already inflamed and going through enough change, and some foods that we eat can trigger inflammation in our system. So, looking at foods that are less likely to cause inflammation in our system can be really beneficial. Diet is massive. It can be so, and for our mind as well. Like you're feeding your body, you're feeding your mind.
Feeding
If you
your
want
mind.
Totally. To behave optimally, then feeding it good food. And look, we all fall off the wagon. I teach fitness. I think I've started my diet as many years as I've been here on the planet. But having that awareness and knowing that you can start as many times as you like, but making sure that you just keep trying and you don't give up. And hydration all the way. I feel amazing when I drink water.
Yeah, totally.
Heaps of water. And the other thing that I've started doing, aside from using essential oils and stepping the use of those essential oils right up, is I've started taking collagen. A collagen supplement. Oh my goodness, what a game changer that was.
Yeah.
And find a really good collagen, far out, that can be a real game changer.
Yeah, totally.
Your skin, your hair, your nails, your body, your digestive processing, unbelievable. Yeah, so I can, Abigail's asked a question up in the feed a little bit.
Yeah. Do any of you find that menstrual symptoms affect your work and professional life?
It's a great question, and yes, definitely.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. To begin with.
I think we should have a week off every month, Abigail. What do you say? and be paid for it.
Exactly.
What about men then?
Yeah.
Men have time off.
You get a week off on us.
No, you joke about. I mean, to begin with, the early days for me, it was like every month I'd end up coming home from work because I was in such pain. That the only thing that would actually relieve it would be to literally curl up in a ball on my bed and take painkillers. And that was one of the reasons why eventually the doctor put me on the contraceptive pill. As I say, for many years then I didn't have a problem and it was great. But as soon as I came off it again, when things started to become irregular and started to play around and I was experiencing the pain, there were odd occasions where the pain was that bad that even painkillers wouldn't touch it. So, it has had an effect.
Great
Definitely.
questions in the thread.
From
Robin's asked one as well.
Yeah. Do you think the stigma surrounding PMS and menopause has increased or decreased in recent years?
I think it's decreased. I don't know.
It's stigma. I think there's more awareness now.
There is a lot more awareness. People are more supportive, more receptive to it. Yeah, I think so.
And I think that's come with the fact that we're more comfortable to talk about our experiences, where before you wouldn't. I barely heard my mum mention that she had a periods. Well, my girl now, she'll tell the world, like there's no shame for her. And it's good because she suffered so badly that everyone needed to know what was going to happen to her, and they did so that they could support her when I wasn't there. But I actually think it's probably less a stigma now than it ever has been, but that's just my personal opinion. I could well be wrong.
Yeah, same. But that's also in part of knowing that you've got the support, because people will speak out when they're needing support. So if you've got the support there, then you're going to speak out. So then, like you say, people are more aware. So then it will decrease the stigma around it because it's more of an open environment.
Yeah. I mean, Abigail's gone on to ask, do you think workplaces should do more to support women during their periods then, and I would extend that to menopause as well. Personally, I mean, I've been self-employed for years, so, you know, I'm my own boss. If I want or need a day off, I take it. It's that simple. But again, from my own personal experiences, we are going back probably 10, 12 years now, since I was last actually employed. There were still some, what's the word I'm looking for? Prejudices, shall we say? You know, there wasn't then quite so much understanding as I believe there is now from certain employers. I'm not saying all of them, because you know, you can't tar everybody with the same brush. But what are your guys' experiences with this?
I'm self-employed as well, so like that, and I have been for 15 years. So I do, if I need to take that lie down or whatever, I'll do it, you know. And but I do feel, I often think to myself, and when times were when I was working in the corporate industry with design, it was like working in triage, you know. It was so busy constantly, you know, your deadline, and it was very, very difficult. Oh my God, you know, it was just like hellish, to be quite honest, you know. Because you have to produce the goods and you have to be on your top game the whole time, and there's no wiggle room for any kind of sickness, you know. And it doesn't matter what it is, any shape, make, or form. If you're not performing, you know, you're kind of, you know, that's a shame. But like, where's the job, you know? So I think that's the way a lot of companies are, but I don't know if it's changing now, because like that, I've worked for myself for 15 years, but I don't know about what the corporate world is like at the moment. Hopefully it's improved, I'm not sure.
It's actually a really good question. Sorry, Melissa.
Go, Lisa.
It's actually a really good question. I've been on both sides of the fence, where I've employed staff and I've been self-employed. Self-employment is great, because when you need time, you take it. And if it costs you, then you're aware of that and you know about that. In the case of getting more support for women in both menopause and around that time of the month when they get their cycle, you know, that becomes an expense for a business who has to either replace a person or, you know, cover them somehow if they're needing time off. And I think it's essential that they take the time off, because they're not going to function optimally in your business. But what happens after that? Like, is it sick leave? You know, is there some sort of, I don't know, special box that, you know, we go into so that we don't miss out on payment or earnings? But the boss is also covered if they've got to cover someone else, or cover your shift, or, you know, your hours of employment. It's a tough gig, and I don't know, the government doesn't offer any kind of compensation for someone who's got to have time off to have a cycle, and you could well choose up your holidays or sick pay in a couple of months, really.
Yeah, totally.
That's a good question, Abigail.
It is. And then you get that reputation too, don't you? If you're in the workplace, then you get that reputation of, oh yeah, she's taking time off because, you know, obviously it's that time of month. So, and it becomes a pattern then, doesn't it? A strategy then.
Oh, and then there are people that'll abuse it as well and go, yeah, I'm just I've got my period, so I'm just gonna have a week off and go shopping.
Yeah, that's right.
Or a couple of days or whatever, you know, like, and they're able to work and they're okay to work, but they're just gonna make a choice because that's how that's been accepted before.
But also, I think if you're only female in a male, and my situation, I was the only senior designer in a team of, you know, 10 male designers. And I had done very well to get to that point in my early 20s, but like that, you know, it wasn't something you're going to start to bring up
No.
in conversation.
Would you get understanding? If you did, they'd be like, suck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, well, yeah, I'd say I just don't think the conversation was something that I would have brought up. Yeah. they might have been understanding, but maybe I wouldn't have thought, felt comfortable saying it,
Yeah.
So a question for you then, Adam, because that there are, as we know, everybody's different. Everybody's going to, respond to things differently. We're all going to think about things differently. But for you personally, is it, is it something that you feel uncomfortable with, or is it something that you, I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to ask here without it sounding really blunt.
Just do it then.
I mean, we've heard and we've talked about, haven't we, that working particularly in a sort of male or predominantly male environment on occasions, that certainly in the past, a lot of men in those situations have been less than sympathetic. But a lot of men as well also become very uncomfortable and don't like the fact that us women will talk about what we're talking about now. So I'd actually like to hear your honest opinion about how you have felt and the thoughts that you've had throughout this broadcast this morning.
Well, if you asked me about 5 years ago, spoke about, we were going to talk about menopause, I'm like, yeah, I'm not tuning in whatsoever. I'm not. But now, I am. I'm enjoying it. I'm listening to it. I've jumped on. I've heard everyone's views, and I'm still here. I've not ran away like what Lisa thought I would do.
You're a brave man, mate. You're a brave man.
Good on you.
Yeah.
Good on you. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody.
Do you think the conversation tonight has helped you even more, Adam, with understanding? Do you think if there was more men out there listening that they'd have greater understanding of what us women go through?
Well, in that comment, there's that Facebook user saying we need a month off. Turned out that Facebook user is Steve Knapp.
Steve Knapp, you're a shonk.
Thanks, Steve.
You need some starflower oil and you need to get back to work.
Definitely. Love it. I love it. Guys, thank you so much for jumping on today and having this conversation. It's I think it's one of those things that's really kind of important, mainly for women, because it's women that are, kind of going through these things. But I think it's really, really important for everybody to hear the different experiences that we've all had, and hopefully, all of these will have resonated with all sorts of different people out there, men included, because I think it's important, probably from a man's perspective, to know or to have a better idea of what they are potentially dealing with as far as their female partners are concerned. And I also think that in doing that, in being able to do that, that it will help to improve a lot of relationships out there as well. So, thank you very much, everybody, for jumping on today. Really, really appreciated. Awesome conversation. Apologies to anybody out there that's kind of squirmed a bit through it, but, we're human and that's life. Adam, when's the next broadcast?
It's actually tomorrow. There's a couple of podcasts tomorrow. There's Stephen Tessa Shaw. That's at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, UK time. And then the evening, we've got Robin, Karen, Dorota, and Dale on at 8 p.m. UK time talking about medication.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Thank you again. And we'll be back next month. No, I'm not back next Monday, am I?
Well, Monday afternoon you are.
Monday afternoon, 1:30. Yeah, I'll be here 1:30. But Coffee Morning will be back in 2 weeks' time. So we will see you all then. Have a great week.
Thanks.